Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to another emergency Green Smoke live stream here in the North End. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined as always by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him sitting here on a Monday. We expected it this week, but it came nice and quick here. Avoiding the Moon Tower curse, Nicky Beloko, an Austin FC player. How you feeling, my friend?
A little, I don't know, excited, a little confused, I guess. You know, I'm still excited about the player, but just the roster fit. And like I was, right before we jumped on here, I was trying to think of that Windhorst, that iconic Windhorst interview where he's like, why
would they do that?
Why would they do that? So that's what I'm looking at right now. And I think both of these fingers, one probably pointing towards like Ilya and his future and a potential sale of Danny or Owen in the near future. Those are the two things that I'm looking at. So still excited for Nicky to be here. Like you said, you have some information on potentially his whereabouts. So that's exciting, but just happy to be here with all the folks who are fucking off their time like good old Leslie's there.
Yeah, we see the Fighting Leslie's represented there in the live chat, of course. P Mike in there, the Trefoil in there, Scott, see our buddy TJ in there. TJ, I'm on a little win streak, brother.
Oh,
you got to get back on this board. Hudson's in here.
I gotta
just see. Okay, what?
Hudson Slosher, you're gonna have to send me your 23andMe DNA test results to see if we are somehow distant relatives, because my dad's mom's maiden name is Schlosser, and Schlosser is one of my two middle names in my name. So I have a Schlosser sandwiched in there with all the other names that my dad.
And I was gonna say, what's the full like name for you? Because it's like, you know, we get some of these South American guys who have like 5 or 6 different names, and you're right in the mix there.
Yeah, it's Ian Caleb Schlosser, Austin Michaud, and then there's a little surname that my dad threw in there, but we don't have to get into that one because it's not for me.
Okay, well, we'll have to get that on the record there. Profe in here as well says he hopes Nicky raises our level of play. Yeah, I think we all do, right? Brian saying a new Nicky. I'm Beloko for Nicky. I don't think you impressed E there.
4 out of 10 there.
Okay. Scott saying, you get a fresh cut, E? Your haircut?
Yeah, you know, I got the flow going. Thanks, Scott. Paying attention.
The after roll in here saying, no, the sale is of Javier Obrian. You know, that's how I felt after that non-pass against the Red Bulls, but we'll see. Hudson confused here, E, so we'll have to figure that out.
Sorry, man.
But let's get into this here, right? This is why everybody's here, you know, fucking around on our Monday afternoon. Let's pull up the press release here for Nicky Beloko, because E, you mentioned some of those players in the midfield that we could see on the move. I've got some reckless speculation that I'm ready to get into later. So let's just start with the player, with the signing confirmed here on Monday, first by Tom Bogert and then shortly thereafter by the club. So Nicky Beloko, 25 years old, officially joins Austin FC on a deal guaranteed through the end of the 2028 season with an option for 2029. So that is a 3.5 +1 there, E. And then the second paragraph of this press release is what was really interesting to me, that Beloko, and I think this is very good news, already received his P1 visa. He can begin training with the team tomorrow, July 1st, when his contract starts. And the fact that his medicals were done last week, we don't have official confirmation of this, but this reads to me like Nicky is maybe in Austin already and ready to join the team here this week. And they said that he signed his pre-contract in January, right? Because I think global soccer, right? You and I have learned this along the way, where if you are an impending free agent with 6 months or less on that deal, you can start negotiating and actually sign a deal elsewhere. And that's what happened here. So, right, if you remember the jersey release event back in February, and we had one of the sickos out there reporting back from hanging with Rodo at the bar, that Rodo said there was an international player coming in that we didn't have yet. Clearly, he was referring to Beloko here. So eligible to practice tomorrow and eligible to play when that transfer window opens on July 24th. So we're about 3 weeks away, 3.5 weeks away from seeing probably some Beloko action at Q2.
That's nice to be able to get him in here and hit the ground running and everything like that, get him introduced and acclimated to Austin. That sounds nice to me, man. He seems like a good athletic midfielder who's going to be able to get up and down the pitch for us. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I think his athleticism is something that stands out to me watching these highlights. And we'll watch some highlights here in a moment. Of course, there's the canned quotes from the player, from Rodo, some of the other information about Beloko. We already talked about, right? Dual citizen, Switzerland and Cameroon. Spent the last 3 years with FC Luzern in the Swiss Super League, 86 appearances across all comps for Luzern. The team finished in the Swiss Super League top 4 on 2 occasions, so 2 of the 3 seasons he was there. This was a fairly successful side in Switzerland, 3 goals and 3 assists across those 86 appearances. Majority of his youth career in the academy system of a separate Swiss club, FC Sion, making his pro debut at the age of 17. Then he was with Serie A side Fiorentina in 2018. 5 goals and 5 assists in 41 appearances for Fiorentina's second team. That team won the Coppa Italia Primavera, fighting the terrible urge to put a horrific Italian accent on that title. They won that in both 2019 and 2020. And his performances with Fiorentina's second team saw him earn an appearance at the senior level. He played 45 minutes in a Serie A match against Sassuolo in 2019, midway through the 2020-2021 season. So that COVID season there, he returned to Switzerland with Neuchâtel Xamax. And only in the North End will you get that pronunciation. First on loan, then a permanent transfer, 1 full season there before joining Luzern. And of course, we discussed this when the rumor first surfaced. Moved to Switzerland at a young age, was a Swiss youth international, most recently appearing for their U21s. So a little bit of background on the player there. And then, of course, we're going to look at the roster sheets and how he fits in. But this is what, I was holding on to slight hope that this could be a supplemental roster player. But the favorite in the clubhouse was always senior international. And that is exactly what he's going to be here on our roster. So your thoughts there kind of on the background. I can go ahead and pull up a couple of these highlight videos we have as we talk more about the player.
I mean, not a whole lot of thought on the background there. Professional since 18. Yeah. We like that a little bit. 6 foot. Yep. I think that's nice. We've been asking for some players who are a bit larger, but again, it's the fit for me right now and like where he's going to fit in, how he's going to slot in and what we're going to do with the rotation in the midfield. I don't know. Is there actual smoke around the hot air stuff? No, okay.
Not that I've heard. No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, man. I'm ready to watch these highlights. Hey.
Yeah. So, and I think we watched not this highlight video, but the other one that I'm gonna pull up after this one. There's not a ton on the guy, right? It's a Swiss Super League. I don't think it's not the highest profile league over there in Europe. That's for sure, right? It's not a top 5 league, but in terms of the player, man, like our initial take, I think, 6 weeks ago or whenever it was that the Beloko rumor first surfaced in Austin circles, we profiled him as more of a defensive midfielder. And while he certainly does have those qualities, like there are plenty of clean, impressive tackles on these highlight tapes.
Mm-hmm.
The more I look into it, the more I think he's more of like a central midfielder, more of like a box-to-box type of 8, because, again, look, everybody looks good on highlight films, right? Yep. But, like, I don't think he's shy to both create for his teammates or take shots himself. Like, I went digging on his FB ref. Over his 3 seasons with Luzern, 0.86 shot attempts per 90, which is almost in line. It's a hair below the current season rates for Danny and Sabo and Owen. So again, that doesn't provide any answers in terms of like a midfield hierarchy here. Like, what are we doing with this depth chart?
Yep.
But I think he just kind of profiles as like the most athletic, like physically gifted midfielder that we have, and maybe that we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, this is from the first highlight tape that we watched of him. This one is much more offensively centric here. He's way up the pitch. Like, we were watching his original highlight clip that we found was pretty much all defensive action. Like, in this one, we've seen 2 or 3 shots where he's just like letting those things loose. And some nice balls here. Yeah,
he's definitely looking, through balls. And again, like, this is like maybe there's like one of those per match, because again, this is like a 3.5 minute highlight tape. But again, physically, I think this is just a win, and skill wise, it's a wait and see. Yeah. Because again, everybody, we're only able to see unless, maybe on tomorrow morning's Moon Tower, maybe Landon has some time tonight to go Y-scout this guy and watch some like more extended, just like game film on him and give us a little bit better of a scout than we can get just from these highlights alone. But I think too, man, like the contract length indicates how much Roto likes this player. And again, can kind of, I think, maybe lead us into some discussion on like, what does this mean for the midfield?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that we were really banking on him potentially coming in to us. Well, not banking, but hoping that he was going to come in on that supplemental spot and leave us 2 senior roster spots open. So we're at 1 now, correct?
Correct. So we have 1 senior international slot right now left, and 1 international. And that international slot that's open is our 9th. That's the extra additional slot, right, that we traded for from Colorado on draft day back in December. So again, like either like if we use that international slot, then that means either somebody's getting a green card, somebody's leaving in the off season, or we're going to go out and buy another international slot for next year. So that is something to keep an eye on, not just through this window, but going forward, is that situation with our international slots, because we went out and got that 9th one preseason. And it has yet to be occupied here. And I think every rumor that we've seen come through, regardless of position, again, would be a guy that profiles as an international roster player. So I personally expect that 9th spot to be filled, absent, like, again, a green card coming, which could come at any time.
Do you think that this signing kind of dampens the rumors around another midfield player coming in here? I mean, that's just a lot of guys in the midfield at this point.
Yeah, I think it would be a little disingenuous to say it doesn't at least lower the likelihood, right? Because, again, I think you see enough from this guy where it's like the way we've been playing, and, like, I don't know if, again, especially after what happened Saturday night, like, I don't think any of us are like, super excited to continue playing like we just the 90 minutes we just saw.
Yeah, God.
But I don't know, man. I don't think it's crazy to think that like we could go and get Tuti Andrade for whatever fee that ends up being, or somebody like him, right? A more attacking, more creative midfielder there. And then fill that 4th center back slot with a supplemental guy. That could certainly be something that you do as well, just for the depth of it. I did look into some of his game logs, and we can see, his FB ref pages, his transfer market pages here. I did look into the game logs. He has started in a central attacking midfield position before for Luzern, and they seem to run multiple different formations, whether it was a 5-back or like I saw some like 4-2-3-1 looks, some 4-3-1-2 looks. Like there's a lot of different formations just kind of skipping through their box scores this year. But I did not see him line up a ton at the central spot of any formation that was like a 4-3-1-2 or a fourth, a Christmas tree or anything like that. He was usually on the flanks this season if he was in that, more true midfield position. And again, there was at least one game where he started at the nominal 10, so to speak. So again, I don't think he is the answer at the so-called 10 for us here. But I do think he's more through and through central midfield and not just attacking or defensive. Like I think he's pretty flexible.
Okay. All right. Well, we like that. You got to have the ability to move around and stuff like that, especially with how many guys and how many bodies we have there in the midfield now. That's going to create more competition. So that in itself is something that we definitely welcome here. After that last game, man, why'd you have to bring that game up?
Because it was less than 48 hours ago, dude. This is the vibes that everybody is coming into the stream with.
I'm on to LAFC. Everyone else
is that making you feel better?
Well, that was fine. Just in denial.
So I did notice too, looking at his FB Ref page, that he's under the name Nicky Medja. So Nicky Stefan Medja Beloko. And I believe Medja Nicky is his Instagram handle. So that's where the Instagram handle comes from. I was wondering that myself. Let's check in on the chat here real quick before we continue the after. Oh, and I see Ben in here. I don't want to. He says the green smoke stream lines up perfectly with the late lunch break. Thank Roto. And we do thank Roto here at the North End. You know what it is. The Trefoil is saying 25 years young, Roto really building for the future. And I think that's a good point that he brings up, is that with the contract length, we have Beloko under contract through his entire, stereotypical athletic prime here. And so I think it's very intentional by Roto to wrap this up here. Cause like, if we move on to some of the roster talk, like if I recall correctly, we can check my work here in a minute. I think he's one of 3 players that are under contract in that 2028 season. It's like him, BV, and Duber, I think, is the full list. Obviously, there's options, but like to be a guy you're committing to like that, it's a long-term play just as much as it is help for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like, look, right now the poor performance or not, I don't want to say poor, but the Azuni's level right now, obviously not where we want it. The overlap between his skill set and BV's skill set, those are, the 2 marquee players that were brought in by Roto and this staff. But if you go back and you look at his track record, finding guys from leagues like this, he has consistently hit on that type of stuff, like more under the radar players, stuff that, guys were coming in from different leagues. Like you have Biru, Sfati, you find BHI and everything like that. Dessler. So like there's been a much more proven and successful track record bringing in players like this. Love that he's on a free as well. I don't know if we've mentioned that yet. I'd imagine we've mentioned it at this point, but
I think I read it in the press release, but either way, that is a huge piece too, right? No amortized fee going on his cap hit. So, and like with the cap or the salary estimates that we found for the player when the rumor first surfaced, like $200K right around there is what the estimate was that he was getting in Switzerland. So you wouldn't think this is a guy that is super expensive when his number comes out, you normally September, but the way the PA did the first release this year, we might not get these salary numbers till the season's fucking over.
So he's going to be ready to go. Like he's ready to play on that DC United match on the 26th.
Correct. He will be available. And that's a road match, right? We're going back up to DC, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So pulling up the roster sheets here and maybe talking a little bit about what it means, not just for the roster and the cap, but for the midfield, right? That's slot 19. So 1 senior slot open. You still got 4 supplemental slots open. 1 international slot. That is that additional 9th slot. And the 2 U22s, which like as things stand right now with the contracts that we have on the books, there is only 1 U22 slot open because they have to be senior slots, right? So Tutti Andrade would fit very nicely right in there. And you talk about another long-term play there. You would think there would be another lengthy contract for any U22 that's coming in, just like we saw with Dubersarski. But in the midfield now, right? And we can go to our positional depth charts here. Danny, Duber, Owen, Ilie, Micah, technically, Sabovic, and Nicky Beloko. we definitely don't have an out-and-out 10, right? Owen is the closest thing we have to it, and he's been fine. He has certainly done better in that position this year than we have seen in years past. And I also think that, like, I guess let's start here.
Mm-hmm.
I personally do not think that this indicates that a Danny or an Owen sale is imminent.
Agreed.
I think that Danny's the same age as Nicky Beloko here. And we love Danny. We know how important he is for our team, but it's not like he's lighting the league on fire right now. So again, I don't think teams are beating down our door, specifically from abroad, to come take Danny off of our hands. Nor do I think he should be, a cheap sale either for us, because he's so essential. And the Owen sale, I think, will happen at some point. I just personally don't want it to be soon, because while it would be nice to sell Owen and get hopefully that maximum $3 million in annual GAM you can get from those outbound transfer fees, having Owen Wolff locked up through 2027 guaranteed with no cap hit is just so huge and so important to an MLS roster build. And we do not have homegrowns behind him ready to fill that slot. True. We just don't. Yep. And maybe we look at that differently in 26 and 27, but in 2025, where are they? It's Burton and Torres right now. And those guys, clearly, the people who are seeing them every day in the club, they don't consider them ready for first team minutes. So again, I don't think this points to one of those young guys going out. But I don't know if you have any different thoughts there.
I mean, I wasn't saying that it was imminent. I was just saying that I thought that this opened up the door a little bit more for something like that, if it was coming down the pipeline. I think most likely scenario is you're not picking up that $600K Ilie option next year, and this is your quote-unquote replacement for him in the midfield. So, like, that's the most likely thing, in my opinion. I just, like that, those two names with Pep and Owen are always kind of circulating with the guys who are our prospects who are most promising to be moved. Like, no one's knocking down our door for Sabo and things like that. So, like, I wasn't saying imminent. I also don't think it's coming soon, particularly with how this is set up right now with Owen, what we have Danny at. And like you said, Danny is much more valuable to us than what I think a team would want to pay for him, for us to feel good about it and be able to move on from him and stuff like that. So, yeah, man, I'm excited for Beloko, but still, I want to see something a little splashier, I suppose. You know what I mean? If I had to go down a wish list of items and everything, like Tuti Andrade is right up there for me. That's the guy that I want to see in Verde and Black come the 26th of July here. So, still moves to be made for sure. We know we got money to be allocated for some of this stuff. So, like, there's still stuff to come down the pipeline, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's just it maybe not important, but I do want to point out, right, it's not just Ilie that has an option for next year. It is also Danny. So, like, you can pick up that option and keep him under team control next year, but, like, another player that potentially, like, you're talking another extension with, down the stretch of this season or in the off season. And again, it's all right. Let me get my reckless speculation out of the way. Okay. I don't think that's likely at all, but it crossed my mind. Ilie took some sort of a knock early in the year, right? The first 2 or 3 games that he appeared, and then he went out, showed back, missed a game, showed back up with the tape on his knee. He has not been the same guy we saw at the beginning of the season. You remember how excited and again, we were playing Sporting. Sporting has been bad. But that was a different Ilie than what we've seen the majority of the season. Reckless speculation time, mid-season retirement.
Oh.
Is that a non-zero chance? I don't know. But he didn't play the other night, dude. Coming off a break.
Yeah. And I mean, I distinctly remember that Sporting game and him being at the back of that midfield, or not even into midfield. He was dropping in between the 2 center backs, essentially pushing everyone out wide and being like, oh, this is a new look for us that I was really excited about. But yes, he has fallen off of a cliff in regard to what we've been able to get out of him or not be able to get out of him going forward here. So, okay, maybe. I don't know. I mean, that contract's got to be guaranteed. So he's going to be getting paid. Yeah.
Yeah. We do have our second buyout left. So that's another way to open up a senior slot here.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's hard to use it on Julio right now without another center back on the roster already, right? Because you can't buy out Julio and leave yourself with two intentionally. So I think it's a non-zero chance. It's not a high percentage probability there, but I wouldn't be surprised. If he just hangs him up here and joins the coaching staff the rest of the year, again, reckless speculation. We should move on here. Yeah. But it crossed my mind.
Okay. I'm just staring at these winger figures right now and not feeling great about next season.
What, with Hader and Taylor?
Yeah. And we're starting Johnny over there. So, don't feel great about that situation.
Yeah. I do like that you have Dessler, Johnny, Kolmanich, Biru all locked up going forward. Like, I feel fine about our fullbacks. Yeah. Let's check in on the chat here before we continue. The After All saying that the Pacific Northwest games this year have been ugly for us. Yeah, it wasn't just Seattle. Yeah, you think about Portland, right? You think about Seattle. You think about Vancouver. Ooh. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. What is that? 8-1 aggregate up there? Not to the good?
No, that's not.
Yeah, that's
tight.
tough.
That is
good
not
to see Phoenix
tight.
in here.
Hey, good to see Phoenix.
Like the new smoke, especially in the midfield. Yeah, I think we like the player. I'm excited to see what he can do for sure.
Yeah. I want to be able to see up close and personal at a game. I want to see what he looks like for this team and what it's going to look like hopefully going forward with him. Yeah. And what that midfield rotation is going to look like now. Because, again, when we're talking about the starting 11, which we have been so very often, obviously, it feels like that midfield is settled with who's our consistent starters going in every single night with Pep, Owen, and then you're looking at, usually Sabo, in my opinion.
Yeah, so. At least lately. But also, I don't think it should be like that. Okay. I think it's way healthier for the group to at least have a fourth option that is threatening to start there. And Duber hasn't been able to prove yet to the coaching staff that he's in that role. And whatever Ilie's dealing with here, he has clearly fallen out of favor just in terms of his performance, right?
Absolutely.
Like everything that Ilie brings to the table, you love. But if he is the guy that we saw getting turned around coming off the bench against Red Bulls down there in the North End a couple times, with fresh legs, you would think. He's just not threatening those other guys. So I think that also is a plus having Beloko in here, that he's going to be able to come in, you would hope, and pick things up quickly and really start to make some sort of impact here, because it has thinned out, man. Like we were at the beginning of the season, right? Feels like every episode, every preview for the match day, we would come in here and say, okay, who's your three midfielders? Yep. And remember, we went through a couple weeks where it was like, I think Danny's on the bench, or I think Sabo's on the bench, or whomever. So that is certainly going to be a discussion point over the coming weeks, at least until we see Beloko on the field. Yeah,
I'm with you there.
Trefoil brings up a good question here. Says, when that sale happens, like a Danny or an Owen, could either of those guys stay in MLS? So the way I read this is, could you stay in MLS if you were sold abroad? Not necessarily that the sale would be like intra-league there. You can, right? We could say this window, sell Owen to a team in Europe, but they could loan him back for the rest of this season or however long, right? I'm pretty sure that exists in global soccer and isn't uncommon, right? I mean, I'm not comparing the players here, but like Kevin Sullivan is 15 years old, and technically I think he's a Manchester City player, but he's staying with Philly until he's at least 18. So I don't know why you couldn't do something similar with Owen. And to be honest, I don't know if that's a rule loophole where we could take in that potential transfer fee for Owen, turn it into GAM, and he's still on the roster, loaned back to us. I don't know. I don't think he would stay. I'm pretty sure he couldn't stay in his supplemental slot if that happened. But that is an interesting thing to think about with a potential sale for either of those midfielders.
That is very, very interesting, actually.
Yeah. Good to see Mike in here saying we need all the help we can get after watching that last game. Both halves of the Pirates in here. Ari's in here as well, saying he agrees with you, E. We need someone more splashy than this signing. This guy probably won't revive our attack.
I don't know
agree.
who could revive our attack. I don't know who you could bring in to make this team score in bunches here.
Austin FC signs defibrillator.
Supplemental
slot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he could help the attack, right? You saw some of those highlights, right? Some of those through balls he's playing. I also think he also strikes me as somebody, and again, I'm going off the highlights, so we're always more amped up off of those.
Yeah.
But like some of those tackles he's making, again, it's a different league, a different level, I assume. But I just saw Christian Roldan just terrorize us on Saturday night with some of those tackles in transition. And like Beloko seems like he can do that, or he's at least coming in with the intention to take it off you in transition.
Mm-hmm. And like, look, I'm not trying to make a one-to-one comparison with these two guys, but like when we got Duber and you were watching his little highlight tapes, which we do when we get guys in, and you watch this Beloko tape, it's like that's just a different level of athlete and caliber of someone who is physical, fast, getting up and down, agile on both sides of the ball. Like I'm not writing Duber off. I think obviously, well, I know he's younger. And he needs to develop more and stuff like that. But this does get me and I remember being excited about Duber as well. And like what I saw from that type of stuff. So like, again, I'm going to have to see it up close and personal there from the north end and see what it looks like for me. But I am excited about it. And again, it's just, we're just like kind of in like a rock and a hard place with like the overlap between Azuni and BV and that fit and how we're going to play with those two guys in the field at the same time. And both of them need to raise their own individual level of play, but we also need to figure out what's the most advantageous way to make both of those guys work. And like, do I even agree that, or do I even think that a splashier signing will solve those issues for those two guys in particular? I'm not sure. Because like it still comes down to the fact that they're very similar in what they do. So, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some fireworks before this is all said and done with this team. Like you're either sticking with this plan and you're going forward with this and you're going to try to figure this out, or you're going to have to move on
pivot.
Or you're going to have to move on from it relatively quickly. And like, obviously there's a lot more context to be had as the season progresses here where this team ends up. But like the trajectory right now is not one that's just like, oh yeah, BV and like particularly with Azuni now, I think he's 30, he's 29, 30.
I think he's 30 now, yeah.
So like, he's the player who he is who he is at this point.
Yeah.
Like this is how he plays. This is how he's going to play the game. So like, yes, I think we might be moving pretty fast towards a decision-making point with like how this roster is going to look. And I don't know if there's a player out there right now that can solve those issues that we have with those two high-profile guys for us.
Well, it might not be a thing that happens this summer. It might be in the winter, but I agree with you. And I also I have a very easy way to get Azuni going. It's called pass him the fucking ball when he's open for a dunk, Jader. I'm not getting over it till he fucking scores.
I can tell you're not.
Or till Jader makes a pass like that again.
I can tell you're not.
Oh, Christ. Cam, good to see you in here. Says Green Smoke Boys, let's go. Phoenix says Ilya has to go, unfortunately. Ari says, we want less merch and more better signings. Is that too much to ask? Well, I don't know. I like both. And I like my merch on discount.
Yeah,
I think I told you I got that like reversible jacket the other day.
You got that one?
Yeah, $30, dude. I thought I sent it to you.
The mint one? It's like mint?
It's Dillo, and I think it's Dillo white and then Verde on the other side.
Oh,
I don't think I got the mint one. Profe has the mint one.
I've seen Profe looking sharp in that thing before. Yeah. I was actually just on the Verde store today, just perusing because there's some good off stuff. We're not sponsored by the Verde store, y'all. We're buying this on our own accord.
Cam says, imagine if we had young Berhalter still, our selling potential would be through the roof on the young bucks. Yeah. It took a while on him, man. And again, I think that Seb Berhalter, while he has become a better player, much better player than I ever thought he would be from the time he spent here in Austin, he is buoyed by a very, very good team around him. And I don't think we're saying his name this year if Ryan Gauld's knee is healthy. Again, he's not taking anything away from him. He's been very, very good, but we'll see if that continues or not. Let's see what else we got here. Scott says, I'm pissed at hot air still. Look, the people are with me. There's Profe says, thank you very much. Not many can pull off the mint, but we try. $30 reversible Anthem jacket is a great buy. Good work, Zach. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And so, like, I don't know if I have anything else on the roster here. We talked, right, about the second buyout you see here on the screen, right? It is Duversarski, Vasquez, and now Beloko as the three guys that are guaranteed contracts for that 2028 season. And cap sheets are updated here for anybody. North End Podcast, the northendpodcast.com, for anybody that wants to peruse these for themselves. I don't know if I have much else on the player right now, right? We have our regularly scheduled Wednesday preview episode that'll be out on Wednesday evening, and we can kind of tie up any loose ends, I think, then, unless you have anything else to add here.
No, sir, I'm good.
All right, we appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us here on this Emergency Green Smoke Monday. We will be back, of course, on Wednesday previewing the LAFC match. It's a double LAFC preview. LAFC 2 in town at Palmer Field on Friday, taking on Austin FC 2. So we'll talk about those games. Of course, the nonsense, still working on some best ball scores here today. Hoping to pick up a couple more points in our quest for our first title. And we'll talk about the bets, of course, as well. So appreciate everybody tuning in, sticking with us. Once again, we'll see you back here on Wednesday. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.
Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans awake, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke, oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans awake, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto shows. Green smoke. Oh boy, who could it be? Maybe a U22 or a new DP. The fans await, the excitement grows. Can't wait to see who Roto chose.